everybody, we're back out in the shop. I had hoped to get to drive the Vette for a few more weeks since it's only the beginning of January, but we have bad weather coming in a couple of days, and then again at the end of the week, roads are going to be salty, so we might as well get the Vette in here and start tearing it down. That way it was for sure have plenty of time to get it ready by spring. The plan is, since it's got 200,000 miles on it, we're going to pull the complete drivetrain, pull the engine out the top, and give it a fresh rebuild. It's already got a cam in it, so we're not going to be doing much performance-wise. Probably a light flywheel and a couple of other little things like that. Mostly will be just a stock rebuild on the motor to make sure it goes another 100 or 200,000 miles without issues. And there's a lot of deletes I want to do, some abandoned wiring, change some brake lines. As far as drivetrain removal, I've got videos already on that, but for the sake of continuity of this series, I'm just going to videotape everything because some of the stuff has changed. Some of it I'm going to do a little different than I've done before. The differential's good, had it apart, transmission's good, I've rebuilt it, so we'll just move those as a unit, set them aside. I have rebuilt the torque tube, but we're going to pull it apart anyway, check the bearings, check the couplers, since it has been 70, 80,000 miles since I did that. So right now, let's get it in the garage and get it up in the air, get the tires off. Now, I do not have a huge garage, so we're going to keep the back end fairly close to the door, and part of the plan today is to get the rear cradle out and gone. That way I can do that with the door open, and then that'll give me, once I move some of my other equipment, give me plenty of room to pull the engine, move the motorcycles out of here. So we've got plenty of room to pull it from this side. Shouldn't be an issue. So I'm going to break all the lug nuts loose right now, and then we'll get it jacked up. The way I normally jack it up, use a puck and my short jack on this side. Just to jack it up far enough so I can get the big jack under the front. Well, that gives us plenty of room now to get the big jack underneath the front cross member. Okay, that lets us get the front set of stands underneath in the front puck holes. Now we can jack the back up. Same deal, just jack up under the rear cradle. Now we'll get the back jack stands in. And now she is in position to do whatever we need to do to it. I'll grab the tape measure and give you some measurements on how high that is up in the air. I just wanted to make sure you understood those pucks aren't just setting on the jack stand. There's a bolt I have that goes up through the puck that I've got screwed into the jack stand. So nothing can slide. It's all set and ready to go. Okay, from the wheel arch to the ground, in the back is 42 inches. Front is about 34 and a half. Now, while I've never pulled the engine on this particular Vette, I have helped a buddy, and we had his set up about the same way and was able to get the engine out, no problem. If we need to lower the back after we got the drivetrain out, we can do that, gain a little more clearance in the front. But this will be plenty of room to get in underneath and take the drivetrain out. So let's go ahead and pull the tires and wheels, get those out of the way. Even though I don't have a big garage, I do have several small ones, so anything we're not going to be working on, it's going to be pulled out of this garage and stored somewhere else. The tires and wheels are off. And if you've got the right jack and the jack stand's ready to go, it didn't take 5 minutes to get this car up in the air in this position. This is usually how I change oil on it too. And one other question I see a lot is, those are base model C7 wheels, which is the same dimensions like a base model C6. If you want to put those on here, you do need spacers. I used a 1-inch spacer in the back. Don't mess with the kind that bolt on and then bolt your wheel on. Just get you some longer studs. ARP studs or something quality that sticks out through the inch spacer, no problem. Keeps everything on there nice and tight. The front spacer is about 3/8 thick, and that gives everything a nice flush appearance once it's on there. All right, we're ready to start working on getting the cradle out of here. First thing, I need to take top and bottom bolts off the caliper. I think those are 21 millimeter. Okay, there's your 2 bolts out. Tie your brake caliper up somewhere. I usually use the brake duct, but if you don't have a brake duct, something over there, tie it up. You don't want to leave it hanging by the hose. And I'm going to take this 10 millimeter bolt out there so I can get to the bolt on the top of the control arm. Okay, the brake line's loose out of the way. 18 millimeter bolt there, and there on the other side will take the control arm loose. And of course, when I say 18 millimeter, I don't mean the actual bolt size. That's the size of the socket you'll use. I had somebody call me out on that, but I'm just trying to let you know what size socket you need ahead of time, but that's an 18. Now we have 2 13 millimeter bolts holding the shock on. I put the jack, little board, just take a little bit of tension off the shock because the shock's what's holding it completely up in place. So just put a little upward pressure on that, take the bolts out, then you can lower it down. Shock bolts removed. So let that down. See how it pulled away just a little bit up top? That's why we put a little bit of preload on it. So jack now get out of the way. Now, if your car is stock, you're going to have a wire coming through here and a cable for your e-brake. Now, I have totally removed the traction control system, so I no longer have a wire going to the wheel, and I also went and put in a line lock on the front brakes to use as a parking brake. So the parking brake cable and all of its associated stuff is also gone, so I don't have to take that off. As you can see here, without the rotor on, that got rid of that plate and the associated stuff there. I really like the line lock. We use that on my son's pickup because his stuff was all rotted out. And the front brakes, when you use a line lock on the front brakes, they just have so much holding power that it just works sweet. Next up, I'm going to pop the axle out of the diff. Since this is slid back, we should have plenty of room. And just go in wherever is handy with a pry bar and pop the axle loose. I think you can see that that's popped out. Now we'll just reach up and pull it the rest of the way out. And we'll go in from here, reach in, and that is completely disconnected from the diff now. So all we need to do is go repeat this whole thing on the other side. Okay, if your setup is stock, you'll have brake lines that run over the top of the diff and come down and go in the tray. You'll need to disconnect those, and you'll need to watch that they go up between the diff and the axles. Now, I've got a video out there that shows how to reroute them. Completely takes that out of the question. They are no longer in the way of dropping the cradle. So all I've got to do is, there's a couple of wire plugs. There's one on top of the diff. Should be a couple on the transmission. Disconnect them. This harness that goes to your taillights, I believe, pull it out. It's usually got plastic clips in the cradle. So let's make sure all of that stuff is disconnected. Then we'll go to supporting the driveline. I have my handy Harbor Freight transmission jack up under the transmission. Make sure you don't get it on any part of the cradle. Take out the bolts of the transmission mount, get a jack under the cradle. Then we can start taking the bolts off that actually hold the cradle to the frame. Now, I have left the exhaust in here. If you have an aftermarket exhaust that has a joint right there, I guess you go ahead and pull it out. This is the factory titanium stuff, and it's one piece, and you have to really jack the back end of the car way up in the air to get it out. So I just usually leave it in there. It's not in the way of pulling any of this. And then once the cradle's out, I can disconnect it and drop it right out and just take the rest of the exhaust out. Keep your transmission in its full up position, it and the diff, as you lower this down, because I haven't pulled anything out of the interior of the car as far as the shifter. The exhaust is still there, the tunnel plate, so you don't want to be dropping the drive line. Right now we're just getting the cradle out. Yeah, the jack's positioned under there. It's catching the edge of the leaf spring and the back edge, or the front edge of the cross member right there. I think that was pretty much a good balance point to lower it down. So now we've got the 4 mounting nuts to take off. You'll need a 21mm deep well socket for those. Do not use an impact because the top of the bolt is held in place inside the trunk. If you use an impact, you can break the top where it retains the bolt, and then you'll have to take everything apart and get to the top of the bolt. And you don't want to have to do that. All right, time to lower the cradle now. I'm going to lower it on down and bring it out from under the car. That's a big chunk of stuff that I'm going to haul over and store somewhere else till I'm ready to put it back. And see, the exhaust wasn't in the way. I can buzz it loose and take it out. And then we can drop the transmission and the diff. I think I'll take it apart at the back of the torque tube. Maybe take the whole thing out at once. Yeah, I think I'll probably pull the torque tube and the trans and the diff in one piece. Now is also a good time to organize all your nuts and bolts for this section. Me, I'm just going to throw them all in a coffee can because I've had this stuff apart enough. I can shake it up and put it right back where it went. But whatever you got to do so you can remember, since it may be a while, it will be a while before I put this back. All right, that's all I wanted to get done today. So now the weather comes in, it gets cold. I can keep the garage door down, keep it nice and warm in here. So then I'll probably be working on this each day after work. So it'll probably go along pretty fast. Tomorrow we'll pull the exhaust, start working on pulling the torque tube, transmission, differential out, get it out of the way, and then we can start up on the motor. Until the next one, thanks for watching.